So the issue here is whether or not child labor laws are lawful and too strict on kids who want to work. I'm the affirmative side. My name is Andrea, and I believe that the government makes child labor laws too strict and difficult for kids who want to work at a younger age due to personal necessities and are not accommodating to different neighborhoods. Children should have the freedom to work. Child labor laws are ethical if they are being forced and are paid, or child labor is ethical if they are not being forced and are paid fair wages. And why restrict many kids, in particular young teens, with unfair and strict labor laws? Firstly, many kids, especially teenagers, are willing to work for various reasons and at times necessities. With the continuous rise and decrease in the United States' economy, some families struggle to support themselves with just the parents working. Work provides an individual with the means to live. Voluntary child labor provides opportunity to put that person on a better track than the alternative of not working. There are many families in the United States that are just living by paycheck to paycheck, and by having their child be able to work, they will help support the family. With college just being around the corner for teenagers, working gives many a head start on their education. The cost of college varies from student to student, but on average, tuition for a community college is around $2,000. A public state university is $5,000, and for a public UC, it's around $14,000. This does not include housing, transportation, supplies, and food, which can go up to an additional $10,000 to $15,000. Although there are scholarships and financial aid available, many students do not receive all the help that they need. For example, I know of a few friends who had about the same family income as me but did not receive any financial help whatsoever, while I received a bit. Child labor laws are unjust in terms of the varying of wealth per location. Child labor laws do not benefit the economy in any way, so why not try to improve the economy instead? Former Speaker of the House and former presidential candidate Newt Gingrich once said that it is tragic what we do in the poorest neighborhoods, entrapping children, and first of all, that child labor laws are truly stupid. Although I personally do not believe that children should work as hard as adults, I do believe that they should be able to work within limits and that they should be kept safe. Previously, in order to help the economy, children were put into dangerous jobs. However, now, it being 2015, we should be putting more restrictions on safety and less on which certain age a child should or should not be able to work. In 2011, Gingrich proposed a plan that would allow poor children to clean their schools for money, saying such a setup would both allow students to earn income and endow them with a strong work ethic. The government should not interfere as strictly and should allow the laws to be more societal based. Jordan Kahn and John Pollock of the Department of Communication Studies in the College of New Jersey say that, contrary to expectation, Pearson correlations revealed 4 significant privilege indicators that supported coverage: be less reliant on government and more on society, for example, nonprofits, non-governmental organizations, and foreign aid. Every city has its own unique class balancing, and it is very rare that a city in the middle of nowhere has a higher average income than in a big metropolitan city that is home to many business corporations, which is why these laws should be within a city's decision on age limits and restrictions. Once a child is 18, they are now officially considered adults and now enter the adult world. However, how do we expect many 18-year-olds to be prepared for the adult life when they had no experience in the workforce and little to no experience in the workforce, and the experience that they have are limited and minimal? I feel like the government should not interfere as much in the decisions of child labor laws and should allow societies who know their own current situations to decide instead. Some families struggle to stay together and to make it through every day and are not able to send their child to college to build a better future as it being told in today's society. However, by allowing the child to be able to work safely and fairly, many can see hope in the near future and are able to stay educated and most importantly, healthy.
Time. 3. Okay, so before I forget, this is one of the ones I wanted to ask. You mentioned the candidate for presidency. I forget his name.
Newt Gingrich or something?
Yeah, how he proposed. Allowing students to clean up their schools for pay, right?
Yeah.
Giving them an opportunity to make money.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say about the effects on kids who are embarrassed by situations like that and their upbringing, or how it affects them in the future, their self-esteem and other mental health issues?
So how the work would affect the student?
Yeah, that in particular, where obviously other students might see them and in turn know that they're doing it for pay, as far as because they need it.
Well, sometimes it would be for need, or like the child would do it voluntarily. So like they would like sign up to be able to do it. It would basically be like community service in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So like we punish students with community service to like beautify the school or whatever.
Yeah, but that's usually done as a punishment, right?
Yeah.
They clean the school, punishment. My high school does that to me. They used to make me do recycling and things like that. But that's supposed to, in a way, embarrass us, kind of like embarrass us into not being bad, so that we don't have to do that.
Right.
And so if kids were to do that for pay, for example, so that they can gain some extra cash, wouldn't that, in a sense, be embarrassing as well? It is voluntarily, but if they need it, they're going to go for it.
Right.
But it would embarrass them.
Well, that would depend on the student. Like, I personally would not be embarrassed. I'd be like, okay, well, I need this, so I might as well just do it. So that, again, would be based on each student. But I think that the other students who would look down upon on the others should, like, realize that sometimes this is just necessity, and that it's something that must be done in order to be able to go further.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. But that's, in a perfect world where kids aren't just kids and they're more mature. I expect, personally, for them to be mature. I don't expect much from them. What do you think about that?
About the other kids?
Well, yeah, in a sense where they're kids being kids, and now they're put into situations where it's like, okay, I'm at school, but I guess I also need to do this because, for other reasons, for their own personal reasons.
Well,
would that distract them? Would that maybe make them not want to go to school, because then that would mean, oh, I have to clean today. Something like that. Like you said, it is the individual kid, but I'm speaking for those kids who do find it embarrassing for other people to know their financial situation. Even schools, for example, they're not legally allowed to show other people your financial files and stuff like that, and they're all for reasons.
Well, this is just a plan that's being proposed, or like that was proposed. It's like one specific plan, but like in general, if the laws were to be less strict, then all kids can see like, oh, he or she is not the only one who can work. I can also work. So they would like in turn go out and also do the work. But that being cleaning up the school is just one specific thing that they're able to do. But there would be many other things that they're able to do.
And really quickly, just going back to the general sense where they would be more allowed to work at a younger age. What do you think about that taken away from their school time, or that taken away from their healthy activities like sports to relieve stress, or arts to relieve stress, or just simply being lazy to relieve stress?
Well, there would be like limits to everything. So like even adults, like they can't work more than a certain amount of hours in a week, right? Without like having to be paid overtime, for example. So they have to be paid overtime.
Yeah.
So in children, it wouldn't necessarily be more of an overtime thing. It would necessarily just be like, oh, you can't really work, because I know like in a few countries you can't really like do a lot of extra activities past like 10 o'clock at night, for example, because the student needs to go home, go and rest, and as you said, relieve their stress.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. So, my name is Buffy, and again, the issue is how fair are child labor laws to those kids who want to work at a younger age. I believe it would be unethical to allow youth to work earlier in their life because it would shorten their childhood, decrease the amount of jobs available for adults, and put youth in dangerous situations. Many youth do not have the option to not work as soon as the age permits. These kids are the ones that have a shortcoming in their childhood, experiencing a taste of adulthood before the law even identifies them as an adult. It ranges in reason as to why kids work, some to help support their families, some to get out of the house and keep occupied, some for extra cash, some to save up for college, but one thing's for sure is once you start working, you're not likely to stop. As of now, the Fair Labor Standards Act sets the minimum age requirement in the United States at 14, but youth are limited to certain jobs and the amount of hours they can take on until the age of 16, and this is where the loss of childhood through working and dependency on paychecks begins. Loss of childhood occurs when a minor is put in a situation where it takes away time and opportunity to enjoy activities that most people enjoy in their youth, such as being part of a sports team, participating in an art, and simply hanging out with friends. Greg Demetriades, author of Studying Urban Youth Culture, talks about how because youth have early exposure to adult life, it gives them mixed messages on what a successful development could mean for themselves. As a result, this may also affect the future generation of adults, raising their kids on the notion that maturing early and giving these types of role expectations would equal to a good life. A simple way to explain this phenomenon is stated by New York Times as it happens out of necessity. The famous magazine stated that as they are integrated at a young age into the adult world, in every way their lives have become more difficult and more confusing. In short, more like adult lives. And this takes away being a kid from kids. Research done by the Reader's Company to American History tells about how the Great Depression, where 18% of workers were under the age of 16, only did this major event sway the general public from allowing laws to be set on age needed for employment and minimum wages to be set, because too many employers preferred kids since they were smaller, had more energy, and would work for less pay. In recent years, where job finding became harder, more adults were willing to take minimum wage jobs, going lower in salary than what they were used to or what their situation would allow, leaving less jobs for youth and having adults feel angry at youth for wanting to, in a sense, take those jobs, and jealousy since youth are viewed as more able-bodied. Another factor to this would be working early and experiencing, another factor to health for these kids would be working early and experiencing the pressure of work increases how much one works, and the difficultness of the job may lead to depression. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, one of the major causes of depression is the worry of finances or unemployment. Health from Time Inc. lists a few ways of overstressing from work, which includes stress from being treated like a doormat, stress from being overworked or underappreciated, which many youth employees experience since many adults do not view them as equal and would rather take their frustration out on younger employees than to other adults. Another possible health hazard to youth working is the probability that they will close up shift or opening shift for a store or business while it is still getting dark outside. This may increase the likelihood that a teen is attacked while going home or going to work. The U.S. Department of Justice states teens 16 to 19 years of age were 3.5 times more likely than the general population to be victims of rape, attempted rape, or sexual assault. The chances of being assaulted sexually are even more so for females, since 82% of minors that are victims are females, according to that department. Furthermore, it would be unfair to lower the age that you are allowed to work because it would open a straight path to adulthood and responsibility that many kids cannot juggle between home life and school demands. To have a lower working age in place would mean that many kids would be forced to work because of need. It would take away this important moment in one's life when we are learning to develop our emotions and social skills. Need is one thing, but we need to stop putting so much expectations on our children when they're young and let them be who they are, just kids. There you go.
So you mentioned something about sexual assault and rape, right?
Yeah.
How that what was the thing between 16 and 19-year-olds?
Yes. Youth between, sorry, hold on. Teens 16 to 19 years of age were 3.5 times more likely than the general population to be victims.
Because like I hear it all the time in the news. Kids are like wanting to, or like are attempted to like get kidnapped or whatever. But that's mostly when they're walking out from school, right?
Could be, yeah.
So like in that sense, like they're not necessarily in the work. Like it's not like necessarily a workforce type of.
In those situations,
Yeah.
yes. But then again, there's also kids who are raped or kidnapped straight from their houses. Doesn't mean they're not gonna go home.
So that statistic is like in general, right?
Yes.
I just wanted some clarification.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay, so oh yeah, okay. So you mentioned that adults want or like feared for their jobs because the youth were taking it, right? Can you explain a little bit about that? Because I was kind of confused on that topic.
What exactly confused you?
The
Like reasons that
yeah,
they're
the
angry?
like they're angry because the children were to take over their jobs.
Well, some of the factors I had mentioned is that many employers would, in some cases, will rather hire youth because they're more able-bodied, as in they have more energy, or they're quicker at things. Like for example, at a grocery store, they may restock shelves quicker just because, as kids, they just have more energy.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And that obviously is in a department that adults can chime in for. Like they can't exactly be like, no, I have more energy. Like we all assume that kids have more energy.
It's a given.
It's a given. Another thing would be that kids, they're just starting to work, and they don't expect more than minimum wage. They're not gonna go in like, I want $50 an hour because I do. No one's gonna be like, kid, let's be real.
Yeah.
Whereas adults, they work their way up to higher paying salaries, and when things in the budget crisis and financial world, they start to get bad, the adults are forced to just take minimum wage jobs. A lot of them lose their jobs from companies that can no longer support how much they pay them. And therefore, those are jobs that most youth have. Most youth are usually paid minimum wage. Like, I have 2 jobs, for example, and although I'm not technically a youth anymore, I am paid both minimum wage, you know? So, like, you know, whereas the adults in the same place we work at, you obviously know, they're getting paid more than us.
Yeah, they have a better, like, even if it's like a 25, 50 cent, whatever.
Yeah, they do have something more than us, and it's just that youth are more willing to take less pay.
Because I understand.
Yeah, and I mention it because it forces adults to lower their expectations as far as how much they're going to get paid. And therefore, since youth are more willing and adults know that, and adults rather have adults find other jobs where it would work for them better, they're going to give it to you.
Right.
And that leaves jealousy to adults towards you.
But you just said that the adults move on to better paying jobs, right?
But it denies them from the job that they're applying for. That is minimum wage.
But they're not necessarily denied. It depends on the qualifications of each employer or employee, right?
It could be. What is your question exactly?
No, I was just trying to like get a better clarification on what you just said. But then you just basically.
Did I explain it?
Yeah, you explained it. Okay, so child labor laws are unlawful and too strict on kids who are willing to work, and children should have the freedom to work accordingly. Once they're 18, they're basically adults, so children should have a bit of practice before that age, and that practice comes from not only from 16 or 14, it can come gradually even more. And children shouldn't be felt like they're being forced. All work is voluntarily in a sense, and this work can be helped to pay for college, for example. It can be helped to support their own families, and this work should be given in a sense where the child is being taken care of like any other employer. There should be safety regulations for each child, and each child should
Okay.
I don't know what to say, honestly.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm gonna go.
Oh, whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'll just start now.
Yeah.
Okay, so the age limit should not be decreased for youth to work because it would push many of our youth to start working instead of enjoying other childhood activities that right now is their time to enjoy. It would take away that time completely from them. And yes, in a sense, working is voluntarily, but when it's need-based, it's not always voluntarily. You do things because you need to do them. It's not so much that they happily want to jump into it. And because of that, the age should not be decreased. It can affect them in many ways. It'll throw them straight into adulthood instead of, like most youth, gradually getting there. It would throw them in, and it would force them to start acting like adults and less like kids. Therefore, when they become adults, they won't know how to treat other kids, and that can affect us in the future as well. And as far as health goes, like I said, teens and youth, they're more likely to be assaulted, and that's just because they're smaller and easier to take down. And no, not necessarily. It's the numbers I mentioned earlier are not just for them coming out of work or going to work, but simply being youth, and even females more so, it's just more likely for them, and it gives attackers a better time frame and a better opportunity to catch these youth while they're alone coming to and from work.